Welcome to Close Up. I'm Jean Mackin in for Adam Sexton this week. It has been an ongoing problem in New Hampshire for more than 2 years now. PFAS contamination in drinking water. These chemicals were discovered in Merrimack and other surrounding towns, linked back to a plastics manufacturing plant there and also around Pease Air Force Base with firefighting foam. After a push from concerned citizens and the State Department of Environmental Services, action has been taken to mitigate the chemicals, but now the federal government's also getting involved to address PFAS. Joining us to talk about what we've done and where we're going, Andrea Amico and Elena Davis from the citizen group Testing for Peas, and DES Assistant Commissioner Clark Frizey. Thank you so much for joining us, all of you, and bringing your insight here to Close Up. And Clark, we do want to start with you. So where does the state stand right now in terms of testing and working to deliver clean drinking water to people here?
We've done a great deal of testing throughout the state. Some of it in the case of Pease Air Force Base, we're doing it in conjunction with the federal government, EPA, and also the Air Force. In the southern New Hampshire area, we've been doing a lot of the testing ourselves, but reimbursed by St. Gobain and TCI, who's the other responsible party in that area. We've also done testing throughout the state. In part, we've been given access to funding from the Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund to do background testing of water throughout the state. As far as remediation right now, there is an ongoing effort at Pease to get all of the wells back online, and some of the last treatment is getting completed there. A lot of water extensions have been done in Litchfield, Manchester, Merrimack, and Bedford. Those are ongoing at this time, and we're hoping to get those completed by the middle of next summer.
So there's a timetable for all of these?
Yes.
A timeline?
Yes, there is.
Within 1-2 years?
Well, as I said, right now for the water extensions that are underway, they're all to be completed by the end of next year. Our hope is to get a vast majority of them done. We've got over 500 homes connected in the southern New Hampshire area. Hope is to get all of them completed by the end of next year. All
right. And Andrea, you just came back from Washington, D.C., where Senator Maggie Hassan introduced you to a Senate committee before the first ever U.S. Senate hearing on PFAS contamination. So what do you think that says about your group able to get some national recognition and maybe get some things done?
Yeah, so I think it was definitely an honor to be asked by Senator Hassan to be a witness and testify at this hearing. And I think it demonstrates that Pease has been a leader in terms of PFAS and how communities can organize and bring together the community to make effective change by building good relationships with elected officials, working with our government agencies, and just pushing for what we need.
You must have felt powerful, like you were making progress when you were there in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, it was definitely it was a little bit of a surreal experience to be there, but it was an amazing experience. I felt very invigorated after leaving. There was a lot of energy there. There's a lot of attention on this issue. I think we are going to see more attention paid to PFAS. However, I'm nervous it may not be on the timeframes that we all would like. We certainly want to see much more meaningful action in a quicker period of time, and I think what we're finding with the government is things are moving slowly. So we need more action, and we need it now.
And Elena, how do you feel about the progress? Do you think that progress is being made in getting these chemicals out of the drinking water?
Yes, at Pease, we've made a lot of progress. They've installed a very extensive treatment system to remediate the PFAS that are in the drinking water. One well is still shut down, but they're doing a pilot study to figure out if the remediation will be able to bring that well back online, adding a resin filter to the GAC filter that's in place. So I think we have made a lot of progress.
And Clark, I did want to ask you, the current limits for the PFAS in the drinking water in New Hampshire are 70 parts per trillion. There are instances in Bedford and surrounding areas where you were saying residents are being hooked up to public drinking water because their wells have tested higher than that limit. Now there is some discussion that maybe 70 parts per trillion is too high. Do you think there'll be a time in the future where that level will be lowered and that more people need to be connected?
We're in the middle of studying that right now. Under House Bill 1101 and Senate Bill 309, which were passed in the last session, we were given the authority to set MCLs for 4 PFAS compounds. We are going through that effort right now. We've actually hired a toxicologist out of the University of Florida to help us. The ATSDR, which is a part of the CDC, put out a report What they have is a screening level. It's not a drinking water level, but it was based on new science. And so we've asked Dr. Roberts to go through and analyze the science that was used in that and look at how you would transition that into a drinking water standard and whether it's appropriate to use that science. The EPA put out a health advisory back in 2016 that was based on the best science of that time. It was peer reviewed, and we looked at it, and the 70 parts per trillion was what came out of that.
Who pays for the scientists who you hired, and who pays for hooking up homes to the public drinking water?
In the case of the toxicologists, we scraped it up out of budget. It was out of budget cycle, so we weren't able to go get extra money. That was on us. As far as the connections, right now we're very lucky. We have responsible parties in both St. Gobain and TCI who are paying for those connections. And we're very fortunate that in other places where they do not have a responsible party who can afford to do that, they've had to figure some other way to do it. In case of Pease, the Air Force is funding the work, and they've been very good about doing that, and also the remediation efforts to clean up some of the groundwater on base. They've got a pump and treat facility on the base, and they're doing a good job.
All right, so Andrew, we want to ask, what do you think? Should the U.S. government be actively involved in warning people about this type of contamination that you say you found where you live?
Yeah, I absolutely think there's evidence to support that these contaminants can cause harm to human health, and we just don't know what levels cause harm. So I think we should do everything in our power to prevent exposure to people when we can. And I also think drinking water is a significant source of exposure, but it's important for people to understand that these types of contaminants are in a lot of products that we use every day. They're in Scotch guards that are in our carpets and on our couches. They're in waterproof clothing. They're in fast food packaging. So they're really everywhere, and they're found in the blood of almost every single American. So I think we need to bring more awareness to the harmful effects that these chemicals may have on human health, not just in drinking water, but also in our everyday products.
Do you think the federal government needs to do more research if you say they're in all of these products?
Yeah, I think we need to see a strong and consistent coordinated effort among the federal agencies. So that would be EPA, DOD, CDC, the Food and Drug Administration, because we know they're in food packaging. So I think the government can do a much better job of stepping up to work together in a cohesive way to tackle this issue.
Now, Clark is right here. He feels like they're making good progress in the state of New Hampshire, at least, you know, mitigating the problem, say at Pease, hooking people up to safer drinking water on public supplies. Do you feel like it's moving fast enough?
I think we need stricter standards in New Hampshire. Right now, we follow the EPA's guideline of 70 parts per trillion. The community does not feel that that's a protective enough level. We think it should be much lower. We've seen other states look at the science and come down to lower levels, and we would like to see that happen, not just here in New Hampshire, but across the country, because if we can regulate these chemicals at a lower level, we can prevent ongoing exposure.
And Clark, how do you feel about the citizens groups getting so deeply involved in their own communities?
Oh, it's fantastic. We met very early on in the discovery in the southern New Hampshire area. We had a lot of questions, and they've been a fantastic resource. Testing for Pease has been a wonderful group to work with. I know I met in one of the early meetings and asked for help in finding a paper on a particular subject, and Elena sent me a paper that night. So it's actually been excellent to work with them in that way. We really do like our citizens to be very engaged. There are reasonable discrepancies in reading the science and trying to take a look at how you apply the standards, and we're actively engaging with them. We're actually holding work sessions as we try and develop maximum contaminant levels drinking standards here in the state, and we're looking forward to their participation in that.
And Elena, your advice to people maybe in other communities who have concerns like you've seen in your own community?
I'd say stick with it. It can be a little daunting at times to navigate all the different areas that this impacts your life. So stick with it, be persistent, reach out to your state officials, your local officials, your federal officials. It takes a lot of work to get this moving forward, and the work can't be done without community involvement.
All right, thank you so much for being here today. Part of your community involvement, we have been covering this story, and we will continue to do so and see how the progress is made in the future. Thank you so much.